Hello, welcome to this session. My name is Bernard Otieno. I work for Palladium under KenyaEMR's project. In this video, I'll be taking you through the installation process of operating system that we use for KenyaEMR. We are going to take you through how to install Ubuntu server and how to install Ubuntu desktop. First, I'll start with the requirements. What do you need for you to install Ubuntu server or Ubuntu desktop? So the first thing you will need is to have the installation resources. So these are the installation files that you could download from the internet, or if you have them in a hard disk, you can use them directly from the hard disk. The second thing that you need to have is the installation media. This could be a USB, it could be a hard disk, or a bootable CD. The third thing you need to have is the server, the hardware on which you're going to install this operating system. And again, you need stable power. Once you have those ready with you, then we are going to start the installation right now. So for you to install Ubuntu server, you will need a hardware of the following specs. At a minimum, you will need RAM of 8 GB. You will need a processor speed of about 3.0 or above. You will need hard disk capacity of about 500 GB. So these are just the minimum requirements for you to successfully install Ubuntu server. So once you have those specifications for your hardware, now it is time to start your installation. As I've said earlier, we are going to start by installing Ubuntu server version 16.04 LTS. Now, the first step in the installation procedure is to insert your media. As I've said, this could be a CD, it could be a bootable hard disk or a flash disk. Insert this into your machine, then you reboot your machine to that particular media. So once you boot up, this window will show up. The first window that will show up will ask you the default language that you want to use during the installation, and the default language is English. So select English, then continue. The second window lists out some components that you wish to install. In this instance, we are going to install Ubuntu server. So it is selected by default. Just press enter and continue. This window will ask you again the language that you wish to use. So by default, English has been selected. Press enter and continue. Then the next window asks you for the location or your country or the territory. So by default, because we don't have Nairobi or we don't have Kenya in this list, by default we select United States. Then keyboard mapping is the next window. We don't need to do any keyboard mapping right now. So all we are going to do is to press enter and we continue. So the next window is asking us for the keyboard format for our country, the country that we had selected earlier. And again, on this window, we don't need to change anything. Just press enter and continue. Then the keyboard layout is mapped in English US. So just select that and we press enter. So we'll give it a bit more time as it loads the necessary files before you continue with the installation. So after loading the necessary files, it is time to configure the network. By default, the system will try to configure its own network if at all you are connected to the internet. If you are not connected to any internet, then it will ask you to configure that manually. But it is nothing to worry. You can just press enter and you continue. So the first screen that comes right now is the screen that asks us to specify the host name. So the host name normally is the name of the facility of which you are installing this server for. So by default, I'll write the name of my facility. This is a test facility, so I'll write test facility. Always write it in small letters and press enter. Provide the full name. So like my facility is test facility, now I can type test facility in full. Remember, in the previous screen, we were not allowed to add any space or to write the name of the facility in uppercase. But in this screen, we are now allowed to write in mixed case, and you are allowed to include spaces. You'll press continue. Then we specify the username for our account. So this also should be the same as your facility name. So I'll still maintain test facility. Then you press enter and continue. The next one is to choose your password. So this is the password that you'll use to log in to your operating system, and this is the password that will be used for the root account. So password should be one that you can be able to remember. By default for the facilities, we have a default password as test123. So for this video we'll use test123. Then we press continue. Confirm the password by retyping it. Then the system will warn us because obviously we have used a weak password. So we don't need to change it. Let's just accept to use the weak password. So we'll say yes. We don't need to encrypt our home directory. So we'll just select no and proceed. So the system will kind of select the time zone automatically. For instance, it will select Africa Nairobi by default. So if this is correct time zone, just accept it and continue. Now the next screen will ask us for disk partition. You do not need to make any partition at this moment. So we'll just use the default where we are going to use the entire disk. We just press enter as we proceed. Then we select the default partition that is already there. Just press enter and continue. We are going to be asked to save these changes to the disk. So we simply select yes, press enter as we continue with our installation. There is nothing to change in this screen. It is going to use our entire disk. So in this case, I have a disk capacity of 20.8 GB. So I'll just use the entire disk. So select continue. Then we save all these configurations to the disk. So in this case, we are going to select yes. Then we wait for the installation process to proceed. So in this screen, it will ask us to configure the HTTP proxy information. You don't need to change anything right now because we are not configuring any proxy. So we simply select continue and press enter. At this point, the system is asking us how to manage upgrades. So the question is that we want automatic upgrades when the system is connected to the internet, or do we want to do the updates ourselves? So our advice is to allow the system to install security updates automatically. So in this case, you are going to select the second option to install these security updates automatically because they are very important for the life of this operating system and the stability of your server. So we select that and press enter. Then we wait for the system to complete the rest of the installation. Alright. Next is the software selection. So these are additional software that you might want to install on top of your operating system. They come packaged with the Ubuntu server. So they are optional. You can choose to install them or not. But my advice is that we need to install three very important packages. One is the manual package selection. The second one is the standard system utilities. And the last one that we might want to have is the OpenSSH server to support remote access to the server. So if you want to select these options, you simply use the arrow keys and the spacebar on your keyboard to select. So the first one I'll select by pressing on the spacebar. I'll use my arrow keys to select the last one, which is OpenSSH. The standard system utility option is already selected for us. So once we are done with that, we select continue and we wait for it to install the selected packages. At this point, the system will ask you to select where you want to install the bootloader called grub. So by default, it is supposed to be installed in the master boot record. So we simply select yes and continue. Well, at this point, you had a successful installation of Ubuntu Server 16.0. So we just want to press continue. Then we load the operating system for the first time. We'll try to log in and see whether we can successfully log in. And thus will bring us to the end of this video. So the system will try to reboot by itself. So let's see if we are able to reboot successfully and log in. Well, so the system has successfully booted up. So we want to test and see if we can log in. So at this point you use the username that you had defined earlier and the password that we had defined during the installation. So I'll just enter the username, which is test facility. You press enter, enter the password. So this is the password that you had defined earlier. On Ubuntu installation, the passwords are never visible, so you will just type in your password and then press enter. So our password for this installation was test123. I'll type that and press enter. Good. So we have successfully installed Ubuntu 16.04 and we are able to successfully log in. At this point, we can choose to start installing KenyaEMR after this. That brings us to the end of Ubuntu server installation. Well, this video has helped you to successfully install Ubuntu server on your machine, and you are now ready for installation of KenyaEMR. Now, in summary, we were installing Ubuntu server on bare metal directly on your hardware. And again, the other thing I want you to note is the ease by which you are able to install Ubuntu server. Much of what we've done throughout this process was to just select the defaults and press enter or press continue. So it is a very, very easy process that is very easy to do. So I wish you all the best as you proceed to install KenyaEMR. Thank you.